Movies are a feast for the eyes. From the actors' makeup and costumes to the props and environmental set design that help build the world of the movie and make it real. Today's lesson focuses on the creative elements that form set design and how we can apply them when adapting script or source material descriptions into a visual movie format. In general, set design is the creation of theatrical, film, or television scenery. But it's also more than that. It's a visual way to tell a story about what type of character a person is, the world they're in, and what the overall mood or feeling for the character or world is at any given time. So, what are the important elements that we need in doing set design? There are a lot of design elements that we could discuss, but today we're going to talk about 5 of them. The first element is space. Expressive structures define space as an empty place or surface in and around a work of art. But in our case, it's where our scenic works and set pieces are put in place. Spaces can be 2D, as in flat, or 3D, as in with dimension. We also have our foreground, or the space closest to the camera, middle ground, and background, which is the furthest space from the camera. We have to make sure that we're not leaving too much or too little gaps in our design that it breaks the space up and breaks the illusion of the world. And we shouldn't put too many set elements that the set looks overwhelmed or cluttered when it shouldn't be. The second element is emphasis. Emphasis creates a focal point in a design. It is how we bring attention to what is most important. Emphasis helps us determine which set piece we should focus our attention on and use the space we're given to its fullest potential. The third element is pattern, which is art elements in planned or random repetition to enhance surfaces or paintings. Patterns can help us give dimensions to our set pieces and backgrounds so they don't all look flat or like a chunk of the same thing. The fourth element is proportion. Proportion is the relative size and scale of the various elements in a design. The issue is the relationship between objects or parts of a whole. Proportion helps us scale our set and props properly. For example, if our characters are meant to look big, we might use smaller sizes for set pieces and props. It also helps bring a balanced look to the set wherever the camera angle may be. The last element we need to consider is unity. Unity means the harmony of the whole composition. The parts of a composition made to work together as a total visual theme. Basically, unity means having every element of the design look like they're from the same or similar environment, so that the audience would fully believe in the world or the set you're building. Because when something feels out of place, like, I don't know, a coffee cup in a fantasy setting, people will notice and get distracted. Once we're done considering these elements, we also have to think of other artistic factors that could help us effectively put those elements into practice. We need to consider mood or atmosphere. The mood or atmosphere of a scene is the feeling a scene or its description gives off. Building mood is important because it's one of the biggest ways to visually establish what kind of world we're building and to visually tell what a character may be feeling. The next thing to consider is color. There are a lot of factors to think about in color actually. For example, we have to think about whether a color is warm, like reds, yellows, and oranges, or cold, like greens, blues, and purples. How light or dark we want the colors to be, and which color combinations would give the set pieces the best dimension, focus, and mood. The last thing to consider would be shapes. We're going to borrow a bit from character design principles here, since these ideas can apply to set design as well. According to an article by Dreamformer Studios, different shapes have different meanings that can be attached to them. Circles or curvy lines are usually found in nature, so they're usually connected with natural objects and animals and give off a warm, welcoming feeling. You could say that circles are friend-shaped. Squares, rectangles, or other straight unbroken lines seem sturdy, which give off the feeling of security, strength, and stability. These lines are often used to make more structural set pieces like walls and buildings and etc. Triangles are sharp and usually give off a menacing or evil feeling. But they don't have to always be evil. They can be unpredictable, mysterious, and unbalanced. But combined with other kinds of lines, they can actually have flexible meanings. Okay, that was a lot, right? Well, now that we got the design principles out of the way, we can finally discuss how to apply it. Creating set design involves a lot of detective work in breaking down the script to get the design elements we need. For this lesson, we'll be using the script from Lord of the Rings as a reference. For our breakdown, our goal is to find descriptions, words, or context clues that could give us ideas how to design our set. As we can see in the scene heading, our setting is in an exterior or outside during the day. That helps us determine what kind of lighting we're going to have. Since it's during the day, it would be bright. This scene is taking place outside, so part of our background should have the sun and the sky in it. Next, we'll check the script for any mentions of places that could be familiar to us. The place is labeled as the village of Hobbiton, and since it's a fictional place, we'll have to look for adjectives that could describe what Hobbiton is. The script says Hobbiton is rustic, and in amongst green hills and large trees. The next choice we would want to make is whether to put these hills and trees in the fore, middle, or backgrounds. We have to think of proportion while doing so because the camera's angle and distance affects how big or small we see objects and settings. For example, flowers in a garden outside of the house shouldn't be bigger than the house itself. After that, we define what rustic is. Rustic means of, relating to, or suitable for the country. Country meaning rural or small towns. If we look rustic up in Google Images, a lot of the pictures would have cottage-like houses with lots of wooden patterns or textures. We can now possibly place cottage-like houses in our scenery here, but what would they look like? Now, here's the fun part where we could combine establishing the character and the mood of our set. What shapes could best represent the rustic, bright, and welcoming energy this scene has? I was thinking round shapes because, well, they're seen as welcoming. And as the script suggests, hobbit houses have round doors as well. And take this note from the script, hobbit houses are dug into the hills. So, how should we go about designing our hobbit house set pieces? The Hobbits design team put the hill over the house and put a round door made of wood in the flatter front part of the hills. To add more details to our hobbit house, we could paint the hobbit doors in bright, warm colors to add to this happy atmosphere. We could also use brighter shades of green and brown for our trees and grass, and a brighter, lighter blue for the sky. So we just combined everything we've learned so far into a design that follows mood and descriptions. But I think we have more stuff to break down. As we can see here, there are gardens in a hobbit's house. Using the principles of unity and pattern, we can decorate our house with smaller flowers or plants in bright colors that don't clash against our bright door and the hill colors too much. We can also take more inspiration from rustic designs and put sturdy wood or brick patterns, or construct the house out of wood or brick to show how sturdy the hobbit house is. We could also add windows to the house or other rustic decorations that would be in unity with a rustic aesthetic. Now, let's take a look at the final design. And there you have it! We use principles of art and set design to take a script description and turn it into an actual set design sketch. If you want to learn more about filmmaking and other artistic subjects, visit filmcampforkids.com.